6 years ago, he left me for his career without a goodbye. Now he's back, standing at my doorstep with a diamond ring and a bank account worth millions. The question isn't whether I'll say yes, it's whether he deserves a second chance at all. Before I tell you how my ex went from ghosting me to proposing with a ring that costs more than my car, hit that like button and subscribe. Because trust me, the ending of this story will shock you. I never thought I'd see Jake again. Not after the way things ended between us. We were supposed to be forever. At least that's what the promise ring on my finger meant. Until one day, he was just gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just the deafening silence of unanswered texts and calls that eventually became my new normal. I spent months wondering what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. Was I not supportive enough? Did I push too hard for commitment? These questions haunted me for years, lingering in the background of every new relationship I attempted. That kind of abandonment changes you in ways you don't even realize until much later. So imagine my shock when 6 years later, I opened my door to find Jake standing there. Not the college boy I remembered, but a man in a tailored suit, with confidence radiating from him, like a physical force. The same eyes, though, the deep brown eyes that used to look at me like I was his entire world, now looking at me with something new. Regret. "Can we talk?" he asked, as if we were picking up a conversation from yesterday and not bridging a 6-year silence that had nearly broken me. And just like that, my carefully constructed peace came crashing down around me, because despite everything, despite all the growth and healing, my heart still recognized him instantly. What follows is the story of how I had to choose between my pride and a second chance at what might have been the love of my life, and how sometimes the universe has a way of bringing people back to you, but for reasons you never expect. Jake and I met during sophomore year of college. It was one of those rom-com moments. I literally bumped into him at the campus coffee shop, spilling my latte all over his economics textbook. Instead of being angry, he laughed and said it was the most interesting thing that had happened in economics all semester. That laugh, it was the first thing I fell in love with. We were inseparable after that. Study sessions that turned into deep conversations about our dreams. Weekend road trips to nowhere just to escape campus. Cooking disasters in my tiny apartment kitchen. He was brilliant. Everyone knew he would be successful someday. The way his mind worked, always 3 steps ahead. Always seeing opportunities where others saw obstacles. And somehow, despite all his ambition, he chose to spend his time with me. The first 2 years were magic. He'd leave sticky notes with inside jokes on my bathroom mirror. I'd surprise him with his favorite snacks during finals week. We talked about the future like it was a given that we'd face it together. He gave me a promise ring on our 2nd anniversary. Nothing fancy, just a simple silver band. "This is just a placeholder," he'd said. "Someday, I'll give you the real thing." But during our 3rd year, things changed. Jake got an internship with a tech startup, and suddenly our time together dwindled. The sticky notes stopped. The late-night conversations shortened. I could feel him pulling away, but whenever I brought it up, he'd assure me it was temporary, just until he established himself. "We're investing in our future," he'd say. Then came the opportunity, a chance to join the startup's founding team in Silicon Valley. They wanted him immediately. We had a fight that night, our worst ever. I wanted him to wait until graduation, just 3 more months. He said he couldn't pass this up. We went to bed angry, planning to talk in the morning. Except when morning came, his side of the bed was empty. A text saying, "I'm sorry I had to go," was all I got. No goodbye, no explanation, no closure. Just nothing. The first month after Jake left, I barely functioned. I'd check my phone every few minutes, expecting a call that never came. My friends took turns staying with me, making sure I ate, forcing me out of the apartment just to feel the sun on my face. I dropped a class, nearly tanked my GPA, but rock bottom has this way of giving you clarity. When you've lost everything, you realize the only way left is up. By month 3, I chopped off my hair, the long waves Jake had loved so much. By month 6, I'd accepted an internship of my own, one that terrified and excited me in equal measure. It was like Jake's disappearance had created a vacuum that I could either fill with despair or with growth. I chose growth. Graduation came and went. No sign of Jake. I stopped checking social media for glimpses of his life. Stopped rehearsing what I'd say if I ever saw him again. Moving to a new city helped. New streets with no memories. New people who didn't know our story. I landed a job in marketing, made new friends, even tried dating again. Nothing serious stuck, but I didn't mind. I was discovering who I was without being someone's other half. 3 years after Jake left, I stumbled across an article about rising tech entrepreneurs. There he was, listed as co-founder of a company valued at millions. The photo showed him shaking hands with investors, that familiar determined look on his face. I felt nothing. Not anger, not longing, just acknowledgement. We had both moved on to different lives. I decorated my new apartment with plants instead of photos. Started a small side business, selling handmade jewelry. Took myself on solo vacations to places I'd always wanted to see. Met my best friend Mia in a pottery class, and she introduced me to her group of friends who became my found family. Life was good, not perfect, but authentically mine. The hole Jake had left gradually filled with experiences, achievements, and new relationships. By year 5, I rarely thought about him. The promise ring had long since been removed from my finger and tucked away in a drawer. I had dates, flings, almost relationships that fizzled for various reasons. But I was content in my independence, proud of the woman I'd become. The girl who had been ghosted was now just a character in an old story. Not who I was anymore. The knock came on a Sunday afternoon, as I was folding laundry and half watching a documentary. Not expecting anyone, I almost didn't answer. But 3 persistent knocks later, I opened the door with mild annoyance that instantly transformed into shock. Jake stood on my doorstep, somehow both exactly as I remembered and completely different. His hair was shorter, more expensive looking somehow. He wore a watch that probably cost more than my rent. But his eyes, those hadn't changed at all. They still crinkled slightly at the corners when he tried to smile through nervousness. "Hi," he said, as if that one syllable could possibly bridge the Grand Canyon of silence between us. I said nothing, my brain unable to reconcile the ghost from my past materializing in my present. "Can I come in?" he asked, and without waiting for my response, my body betrayed me by stepping aside. He walked into my living room, taking in the space that contained no trace of him, no hint that he had once been the center of my world. "I've been looking for you," he said quietly. "It took some time to track you down." The anger I thought had dissolved years ago surged back with unexpected force. 6 years is a hell of a long time to find someone who wasn't hiding, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. He nodded, accepting the hit. "I deserve that. I deserve worse." He took a deep breath. "I came to explain, if you'll let me, and to apologize, though I know that's not nearly enough." As he talked, the story unfolded. The startup had been all-consuming, demanding every waking hour. He'd convinced himself a clean break was kinder than slowly drifting apart. The company had exploded in success beyond anyone's expectations. He'd become wealthy, achieved everything he'd set out to do professionally. And then one day, in the emptiness of his achievement, he realized what it had cost him. "I've dated," he said, "but no one ever compared to you." From his pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "I don't expect you to say yes. I don't deserve a second chance. But I needed you to know that leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." He opened the box to reveal a diamond ring that seemed to capture and reflect every light in the room. "This isn't about the money or what I can give you now. It's about the promise I made and broke. I'm here to see if there's any possibility of keeping it. 6 years too late." I told Jake I needed time, and to his credit, he didn't push. He left the ring. Despite my protests, saying it belonged to me, regardless of my decision. After he left, I called Mia immediately. She came over with wine and a protective fury toward a man she'd never met but had heard so much about during late-night conversations. "Are you actually considering this?" she asked, as I stared at the ring box on my coffee table, still unopened since Jake had left. After what he did, I wasn't sure what I was considering. Part of me wanted to throw the ring in his face, to make him feel a fraction of the pain I'd felt. Another part remembered the boy I'd loved, saw glimpses of him in the man who'd returned. And still, another part wondered if this was just about his guilt, his need for absolution that had nothing to do with me at all. The next week passed in a blur of sleepless nights and distracted days. I agreed to meet Jake for coffee, neutral territory. He arrived early, nervously fidgeting with his cup when I walked in. We talked for hours, about the past, about the years between, about who we'd become. I asked the hardest questions: why he hadn't called even once, if he'd thought about me, what changed. He answered everything with a rawness I hadn't expected. "Success feels hollow without someone to share it with," he said. "Not just anyone, you." After coffee came dinner another night, then a walk through the park where we used to study. Each meeting peeled back another layer. I consulted friends, family, even started seeing my old therapist again. Everyone had opinions. Some thought I was crazy to even consider it. Once a runner, always a runner. Others believed in second chances, in the growth people can experience over time. I made pros and cons lists. I stalked his social media for any red flags. I even called a mutual college friend, who was still in touch with him, who confirmed his story of gradual realization, of regret that had been building for years. Through it all, Jake remained patient. No pressure, no grand gestures beyond his initial return. Just consistent presence, proving through actions that he was different now, still ambitious, still brilliant, but with a hard-earned wisdom about what really mattered. One evening, sitting alone in my apartment, I finally opened the ring box. The diamond caught the sunset through my window, sending prismas across my walls. It was beautiful, extravagant, but it wasn't what I was deciding on. The real question wasn't about a ring, or even about Jake. It was about me, about whether I was brave enough to risk heartbreak again. 2 months after Jake's unexpected return, I asked him to meet me at the coffee shop where we'd first met. It felt right somehow to come full circle. He arrived exactly on time, his eyes showing a mix of hope and resignation, prepared for either outcome. "I've been thinking about timing," I said, after we sat down. "How sometimes the right person comes at the wrong time. How sometimes people need to grow separately before they can grow together." Jake nodded, staying silent, giving me the space to continue. "The girl you left would have taken you back in a heartbeat," I said. "She would have been so grateful that you returned, that you still wanted her, that you'd become this success story and still thought of her. She would have said yes immediately." His face fell slightly, realizing where this was going. "But I'm not that girl anymore," I continued. "The woman I am now knows her worth. She knows that love shouldn't leave without saying goodbye, that promises mean something." I reached into my purse and pulled out the ring box, sliding it across the table to him. His eyes closed briefly, accepting the rejection. "Which is why," I said, my voice softening, "I can't accept this particular ring." His eyes opened, confusion replacing resignation. "If, and that's a big if, we decide to try again, it needs to be from scratch, not picking up where we left off, not trying to erase the hurt or buy forgiveness with diamonds. We'd need to start fresh, date properly, learn who we are now. And maybe, someday, there will be a ring that represents who we become together, not who we were or what we lost." The smile that broke across his face then reminded me of the boy in the coffee shop, the one who laughed when I spilled coffee on his textbook. Not the polished millionaire, but the person beneath all that. "I'd like that," he said simply. A fresh start. We didn't know if it would work out. There were no guarantees, no fairy tale endings promised. Just two people who had once loved each other, who had hurt and been hurt, choosing to see if something new could grow from the ashes of what had been. Sometimes the most unexpected plot twists aren't about dramatic revelations or shocking betrayals. Sometimes the twist is finding the courage to begin again, to write a new story instead of trying to rewrite the old one. And sometimes karma isn't about punishment or reward. It's about bringing you full circle to face the lessons you need to learn. So that's where I am now, cautiously writing a new chapter with someone who is both familiar and strange to me. We're taking it slow, setting boundaries, building trust one day at a time. The ending is unwritten, and that's okay. I've learned that life rarely gives you neat conclusions. What I know for certain is this: I'm grateful for both the heartbreak and the healing, for the woman I became in his absence, for the strength to choose my path forward, based not on the past, but on the potential of the future. Some of you might think I'm a fool for giving him another chance. Others might believe in the power of redemption, of growth, of forgiveness. Whatever you believe, I hope my story reminds you that sometimes the most unexpected returns aren't about going backward. They're about moving forward in ways you never imagined. If you've ever had to choose between your pride and a second chance at love, drop a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that prove sometimes the most unexpected plot twists lead to the best endings. Because here's what I've learned: true strength isn't in never falling, or even in getting back up. It's in deciding, each and every day, who deserves a place in your story, and on what terms. That's the kind of power no ghosting, no heartbreak, and no unexpected return can ever take from you.